satu idea dan juga formula daripada Rafizi Ramli berkaitan dengan Johor-Singapora Special Zone Ekonomi Area yang telah dicetuskan oleh Datuk Seri Rafizi, dan ini telah membuahkan hasil dan telah pun termeterai perjanjian di antara Johor dan juga Singapura. Jadi sahabat semua, ini antara perkara yang dilakukan oleh Datuk Seri Rafizi Ramli yang tidak dilihat oleh para walaun-walauntit kerana mereka sibuk mencari kesalahan, mencari kelemahan daripada Datuk Seri Rafizi Ramli. Menteri Besar Johor mengatakan terima kasih kerana ini adalah jasa idea daripada Rafizi Ramli. Jadi sahabat semua, tanpa membuang masa, mari kita tonton bersama ucapan daripada Datuk Seri Rafizi Ramli.
Yang berhormat Datuk Wan Hafiz bin Ghazi, Chief Minister of Johor. Yang berbahagia Datuk Nur Azmi Dirun, Secretary General, Ministry of Economy. Yang berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Dr. Haji Azmi Rohani, State Secretary of Johor. Yang berhormat Lee Ting Han, Skop Johor. Yang berhormat Datuk Seri Insinyur Hasni Muhammad, Economic Advisor to the State of Johor. With us today yang berbahagia Datuk Haji Muhammad Nur Azam bin Datuk Haji Osman, the CEO of IRDA, Deputy Secretary Generals, Heads of Departments from Ministries and Government Agencies, Johor State Government Officials, C-suites from banking partners, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning. Thank you for taking the time to attend today's event. My sincere appreciation goes to the organizers, IRDA and the wider ministry team, as well as the banking partners involved today who have made this dialogue possible. I'm very thankful to all of you. When we inked the signing of the Johor-Singapore Special Economic Zone earlier this year, it might seem to some that this was a guaranteed scheme, that this was a natural consequence of neighboring countries with a shared history. But of course, the truth is a lot more complicated than that. To share the beginning, it started with a very simple idea and a simple problem statement. I co-chair the Joint Ministerial Committee on Iskandar together with Yang Berhormat Menteri Besar, as well as my counterpart from Singapore. So we were supposed to have a meeting, and that was the first meeting that I was supposed to co-chair. That was in July 2023. So going through the proceedings and the preparation and developments in the past few years before that, it was quite obvious, at least to me, that over the years, what was envisioned for Iskandar Malaysia has become a bureaucratic process. A lot of it was bureaucracy, and it was reduced to discussions on token cooperation. And we missed the very big opportunity of the synergy that was presented by Singapore and Johor. And there was a lot of concern how it would have been received politically, because you're talking about Johor and Singapore, Malaysia and Singapore's sibling rivalry that went on for decades and so on. So it started with a very simple idea that let's try to be a lot bolder and more radical, because hopefully the time warrants for it. So we had a breakfast with Yang Berhormat Menteri Besar, I think about 2 weeks before the meeting. We threw the idea. I was glad that Johor was more than happy, because I was a bit concerned, because this is sensitive, so to speak. And so JSSEZ was first mooted at the 16th Joint Ministerial Committee on Iskandar in July 2023. my counterpart, Minister Desmond from Singapore, along with Yang Berhormat Chief Minister of Johor, luckily trace out a common and mutual compelling vision that the time is ready for us to tap the synergy between the high growth proposition of Johor and the investment magnet that is Singapore. Connectivity potential, we could create a flywheel effect into other areas. Singapore was already Johor's second largest foreign investor and contributed to around 70% of Johor's total FDI in manufacturing. Forgo past misunderstandings to seize on present opportunities, there was a deal to be made. Sometimes I sound like Trump. And that's scary, especially when you do this. Yeah. And so, for the first time ever, we agreed to set up a task force to explore a framework on the SEZ. This was unlike the establishment of the Southern Corridor, where initially it began, because we wanted to step up, instead of just on Malaysian side, what was necessary and fundamental was to make sure that both countries have a stake and bound with an agreement. So it's a different model, and this was a cross-border exercise. In other words, it was a partnership where both countries would be equally invested. And I hope that will be a game changer going forward for many decades. So ladies and gentlemen, 6 months later, after much deliberation and engagement, both countries landed on an MOU, which was signed in January 2024. We gave ourselves a 2-year window to finalize the deal, and we managed to do it in half the time. That is a credit to the hard work, often unseen by many, by the civil servants leading these negotiations. It wasn't the ministers leading it, it was the civil servants. Please give a round of applause to all of them. However, it was in that interim period we realized how much this captured the imagination of the markets. Whenever we had meetings with, for example, a sovereign wealth fund or equity research analysts from a global bank, they would always inquire about the progress of JSSEZ. There was an underlying recognition that this could be a game changer. But there is also a caveat. The true test of JSSEZ was never getting a signed deal. There was some level of skepticism because MOUs or even agreement with all its highlight, if not followed through properly, 4 or 5 years later remains just an agreement. Rather, what is most important at this stage, it had to demonstrate that as an outcome of this deal, there would be a serious and tangible uptick in economic activity where investors would crowd in and SMEs would relocate for expansion. And I'm glad, I don't think that the continuous interest to invest in Johor and shared by Yang Berhormat Menteri Besar, I don't think it was exclusively JSSEZ. There was a lot of economic prospect that Johor has and offers, but I think JSSEZ becomes a focal advertising campaign to position Johor not just for regional investments but global investments. And the best is yet to come. And what we are seeing now, I hope, is just the beginning of that. As expected, 5 months since the signing, there is already a chatter if JSSEZ will actually achieve its purpose. And I'm fully mindful about that the momentum has to continue. We have to build layer upon layer of the initial excitement. This concern is especially valid when there are many forums promoting, and I think what we see today is just one, but many to come. But we have to be careful that we must be able to continuously announce substantial investments as a result of JSSEZ. And this is part of that work in progress. Even as we were negotiating with Singapore since the last 1.5 years, the focus has always been the banks. Banks facilitate, connect, and put the ecosystem. If we understand how the EU expansion works, usually it's the banks that go first every time a new member country is accepted into EU. The banks talk to the clients, the banks understand the supply chain better, and therefore JSSEZ will not be successful without bringing the banks on board. And today, we are advancing facilitation further by partnering with a comprehensive set of international, regional, and local banks. From the west, we have the likes of the Bank of America and HSBC. From the east, we have Sumitomo Mitsui Corporation and CGS International Securities, and also with household names such as Maybank and CIMB, running out the list of 6. Our partnership with a wide array of banks, spanning each corner of the globe, indicates something bigger than 2 ASEAN countries coming together. I forgot to mention, we have been talking to one European bank, but it takes slightly longer for them to go through their process. So there'll be another one hopefully coming, and there'll be, at least in the beginning, a list of 7 banks partnering with the Malaysian government to crowd in the investment. Given banks are the eyes and ears of their clients, many of them are institutional in size, ranging from pension funds to large endowments, searching for the next growth story. These are also the small businesses looking for greater access and diversification to financing. With banks being the conduits of capital, their presence is critical to galvanizing private sector participation through the pooling of capital and commerce. Having the buy-in from these anchors of the financial system is perhaps the best show of progress and belief in JSSEZ to date. It has culminated in today's LOI signing, the first decisive step to realizing the economic vision we laid out. It is centered on 4 key pillars. The first being financing support in strategic areas such as the green, digital, and creative industries. This will be achieved through the provision of trade finance solutions, investment guarantees, and credit facilities to attract FDI. The second and third pillar focuses on promotion and stakeholder engagement. The idea is to leverage on the bank's touch points across the world by tapping into the networks of both coverage bankers and private wealth advisors, where we showcase opportunities for not just the MNCs and PE firms, but crucially, the family offices and individual investors too. The fourth pillar looks at research and market intelligence. We will provide regular economic outlook reports, market analysis, and sector-specific intelligence to support policy development in the SEZ. This will be complemented with benchmarking studies as well as impact achievements. Going forward, we will also be launching the JSSEZ Blueprint at the end of the year. This will be a comprehensive roadmap outlining the long-term vision, strategic aspirations, and investment opportunities. Think of it as a one-stop document for potential investors, policymakers, and the general public. And on that note, I like to end on the long-term part. I think many of you, might be thinking the elephant in the room, which is to question the future prospects of JSSEZ if there is a change. If it will continue to be a priority in the coming years, and if activity will continue to rise. The last thing we need is for all the momentum, attention, and excitement to go to waste. What I will say is this. Policy continuity should never depend on the sitting administration of the day. I know the concern of the Johor state government is that what will happen if we change minister. And in fact, that has been questioned many, many times even before there was PKR election. Policy, good policy should continue. In my experience coming into the administration, and I hope this will continue with whoever set of ministers that we'll have in the future, I don't think any administration or minister comes in to wreak havoc. Our job is to see what works, what could have been done better, and principally to build upon the foundation that has been built before us. There has to be tweaking every now and then, but usually the good policy of a country continues, and it will not depend on the whims and desires of individual politicians. It could be true that my time is temporary, but I hope there's a lot of people who have been working and putting a lot of work into JSSEZ. And we also have an agreement to honor. And I'm sure whatever happens, JSSEZ is too big, too important, and too valuable for the country to subject it to changes and different personalities. And on that note, I think I'm assured that JSSEZ in many ways is a promise to the future. And people, successive people, will come in and will work on this one. And we have to deliver this promise that young Malaysians and Singaporeans can coalesce for the betterment of each other's livelihood. And I think everyone will hold true to that. And hopefully 10, 15 years down the line, as we envision in the beginning, that we will have the greater part of Johor to rival the Klang Valley as a key economic driver of this country. And it is also the first time both countries have committed to such a promise. And as long as we are mindful of our duty as stewards for the coming generations, I believe it won't be the last time either. So with that, thank you very much for making the time to attend to this dialogue. And we purposely plan everything so that big announcements, one after another, comes in drips to keep you excited. And that's why we signed the agreement first, we talk about the facilitation, and then we talk about blueprints. A lot of people will be waiting, when Yang Berhormat Menteri Besar Johor talks about 50 anchor projects. What exactly are 50 anchor projects? When we talk about the 5 billion infrastructure fund, how exactly it's going to be developed. And this will be announced from time to time, and that's just a strategy to keep everyone glued to JSSEZ in the coming years. So thank you very much, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato' Sri Rafizi Ramli. I'd like to invite Yang Berhormat to please remain on stage.